Good morning.
Morning, how are you today?
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm fine, thank you.
Good, good.
Hi, good morning, all. How are we doing today?
Good morning. Well, thank you.
Good morning. Fine, thank you. And you?
Fine, thanks. I'm here. I'm good. I trust you all had a productive week and you had the opportunity to read it. I saw lots of you sent in your homework, so I was very pleased. And We are now at week 4. Next week, we'll be at week 5. That means we're halfway through the course. And so it's very good that most of you got out your homework so you would know where you stand. And I think I got to Neil already going and getting her 5%. And a lot of you have been reading the newspaper. So far, so good. And I see successful end ahead. So let's not let these next 5 weeks, just pass us by without getting in all our points. Because remember, sitting in the exam comfortably is very important for peace of mind and to successfully pass the class. Okay, and so most of you did a very good job with that in intro, and I'm certain that y'all found it beneficial. So time is flying. I don't know. I think these 4 weeks have gone very fast. So just let me know if you need any assistance, any additional help. And like I said, this is very achievable. Okay. So with that said, has anybody read the newspaper?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, very good. And so
Yes.
we'll share the newspaper, and if anybody went to their specific organization, we'll go into that. And then last Saturday evening, we, class normally ends around 12. Around 2 p.m., all the sanctions against Russia came out. And so I was very, very surprised to see those, because NATO hasn't, issued any sanctions yet. And so it was reported that this is the first time the Bahamas has acted outside of, NATO making a decision. So I was surprised about that. And then when I watched the news this week, a lot of the news was saying that we still haven't made a decision about it. So, I was confused, but I said perhaps the news is a bit behind, or the government did not, I guess Clint did not get the memo, or they did not share that they did indeed put out sanctions. But we'll look at it just to ensure, just have a visual. So if it came into, we'll see what went out to every financial institution in the Bahamas and what they should be doing. So, okay, very good. Go ahead and we'll look at the sanctions. But go ahead and tell us what we saw in the newspaper this week.
So, Miss Ballard, I saw that too. Like I tell you, I don't work in the financials. That had me so confused. I was trying to figure out, okay, if they come out and say they finally passed it, then then what? Like they saying they come out and they bring them out and then they sit backward like they were scared. So I didn't understand that. Like they didn't come forward and push on and make the necessary arrangements and whatever. So I was supposed to ask you about that because I basically I touched on it a little bit. I didn't go into too much detail.
Well, again, like I said, Saturday afternoon, and I think let's see, I have a visual. The news, and because we have a press secretary, my expectation is that, the press secretary would be up to date and abreast
Yes.
of what's going on, but I don't know. And do you see the date? March 12, 2022, on a Saturday when nobody would have been paying attention. And if I wonder,
If they were scared to bring it out, I don't know if they were
afraid to bring it out. And do you really, when you get into work on Monday morning, would you really read a email from on a Saturday? I don't know. So this is what it says. Does somebody want to read it? You want to go ahead and read it?
Group of Financial Service Regulators notice Directive of Russian Business Activities. After consultation with the government of the Bahamas and the due consideration to the interests of the jurisdiction and the financial service sector operated within, the agency is comprised of the group of financial service regulators, hereby direct regulated entities that the license and authorities to operate from within the Bahamas is not engaged in transactions with sanctioned persons, entities, or business linked to Russia and Belarus. Regulated entities should apply the highest level of risk management controls to detect the potential
to deter
the potential for a misuse of the Bahamas financial system in current global environments and indeed every circumstances. For purposes of the directive, sanctions include those issued by the United States, Canada, United Kingdom, and the European Union, and any other jurisdiction which the GFSR may specify from time to time. Comments and queries regarding the notice should be addressed to the Central Bank of the Bahamas, Securities Commission of the Bahamas, Insurance Commission of the Bahamas, Compliance Commission of the Bahamas, Game and Board of the Bahamas.
Okay, so again, normally if you are like, and this came out from the Securities Commission, and so now this, of course they're working together, and they said, listen, one, and this for everybody in the financial, and you see the gaming board up here as well.
Mhm.
But of course, well, they have up down there. I don't know if any Russians, may have had citizenship. I don't know. And gone down there and like can open up an account, or they have those big poker games at the Atlantis and the Bahamas. So you really never know. And so this came out to everybody. And so this was the sanction attached. And it was very, can you all see that? That seemed to be very dull, writing. I don't even know if we can see it. And so International Obligation, Economic and Ancillary Measures Act, Chapter 16. And again, it goes on just to tell us, this is signed by the Attorney General and what they want to do. And so they not only sanction individuals, but also entities. And so what you would have had to do on Monday morning is go into your system and enter each of these names. And
Wow.
what is difficult is that women, let me see, in Russian, because I had this incident where I had to file an STR, and how this, let me see if there's a woman here. One is, most of them are, okay, this Audrey. Audrey is, in Russian, I think they take, one is masculine and one is feminine. And so therefore I had a father and daughter account. However, her name was different with the first letter because his name would have been masculine and hers would have been feminine. So I had reported the father like early in the year, not realizing that that was his daughter because the name was different. So of course, that's where it comes into play, knowing your customer. Okay, so if you have Russian customers, you need to do a little history on the language, history on the feminine and the masculine names and how they pronounce them or how they write them, because a lot of time you will not know that there's a relationship right there. And I simply, I was a new compliance officer and to that company, and I did not know. I didn't work with Russian companies before, because I came from Royal Bank, very conservative, would not even open up a Russian account. But now I was working in the Swiss bank, and so they, very less conservative, and they take any account that they could possibly get. So I was able to, when I learned that about Russia, I was able to link that to those two persons together, and both of them were prosecuted, the father and the daughter. And after I checked the account, I saw that transfers were being made. After the father started to be investigated, they started to transfer the money through the daughter's account. So luckily we got that. The first name, the Demetrius is the last name. I noticed too when using WorldCheck, for persons who are familiar with WorldCheck. WorldCheck is a system that when you walk into the bank and you want to open an account, we enter your name into the system and it tells us if you're a PEP, if you have any sanctions against you, if any background information, if you've ever been charged with money laundering or what have you. And so WorldCheck also, if your company pays for it, scans your name every night, because of course we know an assessment is only good as today. We are law-abiding citizens today. Tonight we could go and commit a crime. So in WorldCheck, this Russian spelling of the name may not necessarily be in there. The English spelling of the name, and it's Dimitri. And they spell Dimitri, TREY and DYMRTO or something to that effect. And that makes a difference because before a client is onboarded or when the salesperson is, being introduced to a client, what they do is they send the name into compliance and they say, before we even talk to this client and offer them our products and services, please run their name through WorldCheck. And if that name is not spelled correctly, you will not get a hit. And again, only because I had this father and daughter, and I learned that the masculine and feminine name for women are changed. I played around with the name and I put the Dimitri spelling. And so under the Russian spelling, there were no hits. But under the English spelling, the guy had been charged with money laundering, tax evasion, all sorts of stuff. So you have to be very, very careful. And that's why in the offshore world, you're paying so much more money because you have to know what's going on in the country where where the clients live. And like I said, these Russian accounts are very risky. They're already high risk. Okay. And so then you have to know that, the different ways to put the name in, or you will literally not get a hit. Okay. And it will not alert you that you should not be doing business with these persons. Now, like I said, Monday morning, compliance officers, no matter what they had to do in the Bahamas, should have gone to their books, especially if they have a Russian portfolio, and put in all these names. And you actually have to print out the WorldCheck and keep it on file to prove that this person, either is not on your books or if you got a hit or not against this name. And if you did get a hit, I think they're saying, and normally it's just alert your regulator, but now they're saying alert the FIU as well. So these are the names, there are 22 names, and then these are the companies. So could you imagine how long this took? Because I think there are 99 companies. Yep. So 22 names and 99 companies. So could you imagine what persons had to do on, compliance officers had to enter all these names. And like I said, the English spelling of the name into WorldCheck to confirm that none of these persons were on their books. So it would have been easy for the Canadian banks. They would simply say, we don't have a Russian portfolio, but one or two of these companies, you never know, may be linked. But again, in the law changed in 2018 where we are required. We were always required to know our customers, but now it's just being enforced. And so we should know that Ms. Bullitt connected to this VTB Bank Europe or to this limited liability. But, so even though you were Canadian bank and you don't have an appetite for Russian accounts, you still had to check. Okay. And so this would have been a lot of work, especially for the Swiss banks on Monday morning, trying to confirm. And once you would have confirmed, then I think the order tells you to send this information to the regulator and send it to the FIU, and failure to do it by a certain date, I think it was the $200 a day as well. There was another notice that came along with it, said failure to do this, you'll be charged $200 a day. So it goes on to say any transaction involving the Central Bank of Russia, and already in WorldCheck, when you send any money through the Central Bank of Russia, the Russian Federation has always had a hit. But because it's sanctioned for other reasons, or because they didn't meet some deadlines and they had fines, we always still put the wire through. But now, you have to ensure that it's not related to any of these companies or these persons. Okay. So the National Wealth Fund of Russia Federation, or the Ministry of Finance of the Russian Federation, including any transfer of assets to such entities or any foreign exchange transaction on or behalf of such entities. And again, remember now, there are law-abiding citizens in Russia. who may have accounts in the Bahamas. And because of CRS and FACA now, nobody's doing tax evasion any longer. So these are innocent persons that have companies and maybe international companies, and now all of their business is at a halt, or they have to find a workaround. And if the world is blocking them out, it's very difficult. What happens to your business if you have to order material from overseas? If Miss Bullet in the Bahamas pays your staff salaries? Okay, so think about all of that. So hopefully, you know, central bank, like I said, through our AML reports that we send, already should know how big the Russian portfolio is, and they have a dollar figure, and they know how many customers are involved. But unfortunately, because of what's going on, you know, yeah, innocent people are gonna suffer for the guilty. Okay, but our institutions cannot process any wires, any transfers, anything to anybody on that list, or they will, be, I guess, given fines or some type of prosecution or what have you. And again, like I said, we have to confirm that none of these persons are on our books. Okay, so just so you have a view, is that clear for you, Jasmine? You wanted to add anything else to that?
Yes, ma'am. It's clear. Thank you.
Okay, so based on what you read, now you see it in person, but like I said, they did come out and say, Fred Mitchell was still on TV this week saying we have not made a decision and we are waiting for NATO or the UN, and then that was out Saturday. So yeah, the news must be behind a little.
Confused,
Yeah,
yes.
but a lot of people, the public's opinion was to let them have their fight. We are just a small country, do not get involved.
Yes.
Now, persons in Freeport were very good. I mean, in the Bahamas, and because that Russian tanker pulled up in Freeport, and then the government basically said, we don't have a choice. If they go into Freeport, as if they were suggesting that they should go, hey, don't come to Nassau because that'll be our decision. But go right into Freeport. The port have to decide. So I was kind of disappointed in that the government would say, well, it has nothing to do with them at all.
The Freeport,
And
yeah,
then
they
the
should
people,
defend them.
right. And like I said, this is not our country, and the port has more control than them. And so the persons in who deal with the port, and then a different tanker company out of Russia in Freeport came on and was saying, oh, let's not get involved in it. We don't want to, it's not our business. They do a lot of business, and we don't want it, hampered, and we don't want to lose customers. So let's not get in it. Let's not get in it. However, we also saw that last week, many of the yachts were seized because they have bulletproof glass and, I guess, weapons of mass destruction and artillery to fight war, and they want to place them strategically, so if they have to bomb the US, or if the US gets involved. So if a yacht has it, what you think about these big tankers? So we should have concerns about that. And imagine being the customs officer having to go on board and check right now when that Russian tanker pull up in Freeport. We had some customs officers in the class before. Are we prepared for that? Jasmine, you would want to be the customs officer?
Definitely not. But they have been so crazy, they go there and take all kind of pictures and send it around. They've been so crazy.
Yes, look what we see on this Russian. Look what on this Russian tanker right now.
That's right. They taking all kind of selfie and foolishness.
Yeah, so yeah, we have to be cognizant and aware, of the risk associated with allowing them into Freeport. Okay, so good, very, very good. Anybody else have questions on the sanctions? We good, we understand that? Yeah, clear smart, they all very quiet. Okay. Anybody else read the newspaper?
That ain't my newspaper thing, no.
Oh,
But
okay, go ahead, Jasmine, then go ahead.
okay, so I could do my newspaper and I could do my thing on one time, my Toastmasters meeting.
Okay, good.
Okay, on Wednesday, Carwin Bow came out with this. His thing was quit childish banter over fiscal crisis. And it basically talking about the two political parties going back and forth um, about talking about finances and whatever. It says Garwin Bow, Fidelity Bank chief executive, told Tribune Business that the country's present difficulties cannot be blamed solely on one administration. Least of the of all, the president has been in office for only 6 months, with guilt to be shared across the PLB and the FNM governments. And then he goes on talking about the different debts and stuff we have in our country. And it says one of the credit rated agencies and external investors monitor what both parties say closely. He added that such observers were seeking a rolling prospectus that outlined the Bahamas risk, and which was sorry about that. I leave my glasses home, so it's kind of difficult for me. I mean to work. Sorry about that.
Mhm.
Um, and which was expected every 6 to 12 months to reflect what the nation has achieved via economic and fiscal improvements. If we set aside the politicals for a minute, the Bahamas has a need for the National Development Plan. The Bahamas has a need for an accrual-based accounting standards. The Bahamas has long needed a debt management strategy. The Bahamas has long needed a proper determinant for our fiscal performance. He added that the budget process was too focused on May projections and too little attention was paid to the actual performance and outcomes which match against these estimates. The Bahamas can only talk about true fiscal responsibility and accounting if the Auditor General Office is able to punish the government auditors' accounts within month to year end. So the solution has been here as long time been here. The National Development Plan actual based account debt management strategy. They have needed this for the past 24 years. It is impossible to blame the other side, but both parties are guilty of it. The government has been in for 6 months. This government has been in for 6 months. They could have not have done more damage that was already set in motion. The budget was passed prior to the election. While they did while they did supplementary budget, it would take time to affect the revenue and spending measures.
Okay, and I agree with him. Like he said,
Yes,
for the past 24 years, both the PLP
and
and
the FNM.
FNM has fallen down in this category. I mean, I have a friend that works at the Auditors General Department, and she said it's a laughing stock. And she's been there for some 20 years. She said they go in and they do audits, and it's blatant where the stealing has happened and who has done it, and nothing ever happens.
No
And so
accountability.
no
No
accountability,
accountability.
and then they move on to say, oh, we need a private audit, and so they get one of their cronies and they pay $300,000-400,000 for a private audit, and nobody is prosecuted, nothing comes out of it. And I'm talking about $10 million from PHA, $6 million from road traffic. It's ludicrous. Almost every department, and like I say, it's proven nothing happens. And she said they have audits up to the roof, nothing happens. And so the staff has just given up. They show up to work every day and they laugh at both governments. Okay. And
Yes,
so
ma'am.
until they get that under control, like I say, until we have lobbyists, that's the only way. And lobbyists, not persons who are activists and then they decide they want to be prime minister after they be activists for 6 months like Lincoln Bain. No, lobbyists, some lobbyists are paid, some lobbyists are, the whole system, how it works in the US and in the UK. Some are paid and some are just activists who hold the foot to the fire and say, no, you did this audit, this person must be prosecuted or something must be removed. But nothing happens, and they just move them to another ministry, and the saga continues, and the people suffer.
Yes.
So yeah, and if Gorman has been the head president of the chain of commerce, we have a governor of the central bank. I mean, suggestions have made over and over again, and nothing has been done. So
Very
I don't
sad.
know. Yeah,
Very
yeah, I
sad.
agree. Yeah. Okay, so tell us about
Toastmasters.
Mhm.
Okay, so Toastmasters this week. Their topic was Go Green. The word for the day was draconian, and it means excessively harsh or severe. The first speaker they had, I can't remember his name. He was talking about he talked about Go Green, and he was talking about the four superheroes of Going Green: sustainability, mitigation, and what annotation and resilience. He's talking about them working together. If we could put a proper system in place and we go green, we will be able to sustain ourselves. That's what the first topic was about. I mean, the first speaker spoke about. The second speaker, however, was my all-time favorite. His name is Toastmaster Clark, and he came. It was an outstanding performance. He came on. He talked about March on Bahamaland. He came on singing the national anthem very sternly, and then he talk about the people and how we just walking around just like zombies and whatever. What happened to March on Bahamaland? How we should lift our head up, and so much things, just like different crimes just happening, and nobody's paying attention, nobody's standing up, nobody's saying anything about it. And he just went on and on about how Timothy Gibson was so proud when he first read the national anthem, but how things are going today, it just everything just so much in the slum. And then he ended strong with again March on Bahamaland, and that was an outstanding performance. So I really really enjoyed that.
Okay, okay, very good, Jasmine. But are we networking? Are we introducing ourselves? Are we getting to know these persons? Remember, the whole purpose is to network, right?
I know a lot of them already. Like I say,
Okay,
with
and
Gentlemen's
they know
Club,
you. They know you.
yeah,
Okay,
with
good,
Gentlemen's
good.
Club I have the we work with Toastmasters 1600 to do our with the boys. They do a session for the first half of, like, because I go to work this afternoon at 3, and they do Toastmasters do the first half of our session, and then we have a speaker for the next session. So I know basically a lot of them.
Okay, good, good. Because we want you to put your name out there and be known. We want you to build up this network. So very good. And thank you for sharing. And anybody else? I think Justine wanted to say something. No? Nobody else read the newspaper? You all had a busy week?
I had an opportunity to read the paper this week, and I also went to
I had a busy week,
oh sorry.
Miss Ballard.
Okay, okay. Go ahead, Jade.
Okay, I read an article in the paper this week. It was in Wednesday's paper, I think it was, and I thought it was very necessary in being highlighted and bringing awareness to. It talked about how the government really needs to invest more in local farmers if they are serious about cutting back on the $1 billion food import bill. The person who I think is the president of some newly formed agricultural entrepreneur association said that the current global rise in inflation, as well as Russia's invasion of Ukraine, is another wake-up call for the Bahamas to be reminded of the importance of being able to grow our own food. She went on to say that FAMC isn't sufficient. The government needed to invest in farmers who have currently been in the field for years and have the experience. She said, while the government has introduced a small business development center and invested several $1 million, I think she said like $3 million in agriculture, that is not substantial to put a dent in the food import bill. And also the new farmers who start up these businesses have little experience and usually are not able to or have the fortitude to sustain themselves long term. So basically, she was just reiterating the fact that because of the current global inflation on prices with food, things are only going to worsen. So I thought it was a good article. It was necessary to bring awareness to, like, you know, we have a lot of land. We have a lot of land in the Bahamas. Why not invest in that?
Right, right. And all of these little associations relating to agriculture that are popping up are going to man the marijuana fields. And so if any of you are interested, I had 2 persons in a class prior where they said, you know, they're in agriculture and they were here because they are, I guess, gonna be compliance over, you know, when they make this legal. And so years ago, about 2 years ago, I saw these ads in the paper that they wanted persons to test the soil in San Salvador and in Andros. So, you know, if you have any interest, yes, sustainability is important. They have a very good program because I was actually helping a farmer, you know, sit down and fill out the form for Crown Land and all the things you have to do. It's
Right.
very complex though, so they need advisors to help. And I didn't find anybody who even worked there who knew, who could explain to me what they were asking for. So there's a knowledge gap in there. But yeah,
Can I
sustainability.
make a point?
Sorry.
I work at BAMSI, and
Okay.
we're more institute. We're trying to get people to be more involved in backyard farming and aquaponics and stuff.
Yeah,
But the
but
issue is a
that
lot of people
form is
are,
so complex, Cameron. I mean, I couldn't even fill that out. And when I
we
called on the
simple
phone, I was
lives.
like, what are y'all asking? And they didn't even know what they was asking.
Okay, we have a new president, so a lot of things we're trying to make it more simple and more affordable for the locals to actually, because some of the programs are very expensive. So we're trying to cut back on the programs. We're trying to get the government to fund, if you're interested, to get a tertiary grant. There's a lot of things that BAMSI is trying to reinnovate to get the people more involved in agriculture, especially
Okay.
our local farmers.
Okay. Yeah, but there are a lot of programs. Like I said, there are a lot of good information out there and a lot of good grants you could apply for. But the deliverables are so extensive. And then even with the business plan, the whole business plan thing is online and it's very good. But if I was able to answer those questions and give you that information, then I might as well do the business plan myself. That's how extensive and how complex it is. So you'll really need to have an advisor who knows what you're asking for, or who could help fill that form out. Because that form is, I think it's for 10 pages of stuff, Miss Bullet. I was like, I don't even know how to help you. And then when I called, they didn't know how to help me. So yeah, you look at reducing or making it less complex and more user friendly, and that would help. So that's very good, Tamron. So let me guess, if Jade, we're gonna get right back to you. So working at BAMSI, what made you sign up for this compliance course? Are you here for the marijuana as well? We don't want to get left behind. Give us a scoop. We don't want all the contracts to be gone before we sign up for it. That's why are you here in compliance in the financial services sector, working for BAMSI? If you don't mind us asking.
Um, Actually, I started working for BAMSI just for a job. That's not the career I wanted.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah,
Okay, but do you see them needing compliance officers when
yeah.
this? Yeah, so you don't worry about where you are now, but having this designation, you definitely need to update your resume and hey, let them know that you don't need to hire outside. We already have somebody trained, you know what I mean, who can
Yes,
establish this compliance department.
yes, ma'am.
Okay, very good, very good. Okay, Jade, yeah, so sustainability, backyard
Yeah.
farming, is the way to go. And Tamron is here, she's in our network, and she says there's lots of opportunities out there. So Tamron, I Miss Bullet might even call you, to see, because I was helping a farmer along the way. And so things are very expensive and
Yeah.
in super value. I
I'm
don't
telling
know.
you, it
Yeah,
is.
so you better learn how to grow them
We need to
lemons
grow
and then
something.
yeah,
We
grow
haven't.
something. Cut out the onions. Cut out having to
Yes.
go there for onions and sweet peppers and peppers, because they are very expensive. And bananas, man, I don't do anything to my banana tree, and every year it produces. So I don't
Wow.
ever have to buy bananas.
Wow.
And all these things help.
Yes.
Okay, go
Exactly.
ahead, Jade.
I also attended a Rotary meeting this week, on Tuesday. Owen sent the invitation, and their theme for this month of March is also Go Green. And the topic for this week's meeting was sanitation in the Bahamas, water sanitation in the Bahamas, water and sanitation in the Bahamas. The session was very educational, even though the speaker was really only able to scratch the surface on this topic due to time constraints. So he only had like 20 minutes to talk. But he spoke about types of water systems in the Bahamas and the different entities producing water, water and sewage, New Providence Water Development Company. He talked about the legislative framework and the different agencies responsible for the management and conservation of the water resources, like Water and Sewage, Department of Environmental Health, Ministry of Health, also those persons responsible for monitoring the water quality to meet World Health Organization drinking water health standards. And he said that the water produced by water and sewage is at the highest standard, which was good to know.
Okay, but we don't drink it. What is there any, if does anybody have like the filtration system on it and then we drink it? Because water even too expensive. I mean, half of your cost like $4.50.
Yeah, that's true.
And I to me, I'm looking at, I'm making a list of things that we could cut out. Like I said, my bananas, I don't buy them from the grocery anymore. I have white onion, I don't buy them. My sweet peppers, they grow in, but not, large enough. But I'm trying to cut out all these things, and I would really like, I was looking at different filtration systems to cut out. It's too expensive.
Mm-hmm.
And then my ice maker doesn't work, so I normally buy a bag of ice a week. And I really want to make my own ice. And all these things, you can cut the cost, and you'll be surprised.
Yeah.
So you think about it.
I think he said that a lot of these other water agencies, well, I'm not sure he said this, but he was making the point that ferrous iron is in a lot of the water.
Okay.
And he said you can tell by persons who drink well water there, it's visible in the teeth. He said the teeth has like a yellowish color to it because of the ferrous iron.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he was trying to say that because of the filtration process, that water and sewage, and Owen could correct me if I'm wrong, because Owen was there.
Okay.
The water and sewage, their filtration process is very good. And so that all of that stuff is filtered out.
Yeah, but does
again,
anybody
like you said,
drink
we
it?
can't drink it. Like you said,
No.
we can't drink it.
Right.
So,
He said we can't drink it or we can.
no, he didn't say we can drink it. He just said that the water is at its highest standard, the Water and Sewage Corporation's water.
But does anybody drink it?
I don't think so.
I mean, I have a well.
I
I have a
don't think
well,
so.
and I don't even drink my well water.
I know an
especially
example.
if you say
My
teeth
daddy
is
is
yellow.
drinking because you could taste the chlorine, and I don't know how it is in Nassau. I've never drank water in Nassau, but an example, I know that when water and sewage come and put the pipes and everything down, you could actually taste the chlorine, how they clean it out. So he is drinking. He ain't never do nothing to him. Tastes good. And he used to work in water and sewage, so he said the water is good.
Okay, interesting. I don't want my teeth to be yellow though, but
no, it's teeth ain't yellow. It's teeth actually white, because like I said, when you taste it, you could taste a hint like of chlorine. Because what they do is get them white tablets and make sure the water is purified or nothing in it.
Okay, yeah. So we have to find ways, and water is a way. Like I say, filtration system, or if we trust water and sewage, yeah, that's one. Some costs we can cut. So yeah, let's see how that goes. By the end of this course, if Miss Fuller could drink it and make her own ice, that would be excellent. Because I daily too. I'm affiliated with a fishing boat, and they need a lot of ice, so that's a big cost for me to cut down. So that'll be on my list of projects to see. Okay, thank you so much, ladies, for sharing. Odia, you want to share?
Yes, sorry about that. Morning. What I read was that there is a local company that teamed up with a California company that says that it now can compete with World Check. So that was a very interesting story that was in the newspaper.
What's the name? Did you get the name?
Yes, it's called Bluestone Advantage. So the California company is Bluestone Technologies, and it's local. It's called Bluestone Labs. And the program is Bluestone Advantage. And they're saying that their program actually uses artificial intelligence, and it does checks every 15 minutes on every news paper, every news station. So it keeps scrubbing the internet and everything. And so they're claiming that they're going to be more cutting edge than WorldCheck and Nexus, and encouraging financial institutions here to sign on to them, particularly since we're growing in that crypto market. So they're saying that airports are using them, the crypto companies are using them. So it was very interesting to see that these young guys are branching out. The local guy here is called John Bridgewater. He was at Bahamas Outlook 2020, discussing the role of artificial intelligence and the digital IDs for companies and governments. And so it was an interesting read that these young guys are trying to compete with companies like WorldCheck, and that they are so technologically advanced with this artificial intelligence. You're not thinking young Bahamians are that advanced, but it seems like these guys are teaming up with
Oh,
some.
they're Bahamians?
Yes,
Oh, that's
there's a
good.
local arm. Yeah, there's a local.
Okay, that's good.
Yes, with young Bahamian guys.
Okay,
Yes.
we'll have to check it out because normally
So
what
that
happens is, sorry, go ahead.
that was in the Tribune on the 17th in the business section.
Okay, okay, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, so the normally compliance would get, they probably have a demo or a portfolio, and they would send it, and compliance would recommend that we get this new system. However, the cost is always a factor. So if their price is they'll have to go in with a lower price for persons to change WordCheck. And what you would do is you would, perhaps if your company does agree to pay whatever the price is to get the installations, then you hold on to the two systems for about a year to make sure, test to see the capabilities and to ensure that you get, you know, sufficient information. And then you then cut one off based on, you know, whichever one is more, I guess, affordable. But I like LexisNexis because LexisNexis, and again, this is a system just like WorldCheck. When customers walk into the bank and they want to establish an account, you put their name into WorldCheck, LexisNexis, or this new blue system, and determine, you know, get a background check on them. Do we want to do business with them? Yes or no? Okay. And so normally the WorldCheck has no hits, or if it has hits, because we're in the offshore world, and you know, we deal with countries as well as very large corporations. Everybody ain't gonna have a clean WorldCheck, and so we do give them an opportunity to bring a letter from their lawyer saying that, you know, that I was not charged, but the company I worked for was charged. And so, yeah, it just depends. Like for some reason, the host just changed. I don't know if Miguel did something, or, but everybody is still here.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yes,
Good.
right here.
All right. All right.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you so much for sharing. Okay, Owen, go ahead.
Yes. Okay, good day. I was very and still I don't understand this article on the Thursday paper when Mr. Ingram, Hubert Ingram, the former prime minister, talked about marital rape and how he think that Davis administration will criminalize the offense. But for the lights of me, I can't get a definition of what marital rape is. I mean, if somebody's out there could give me that definition, please help me. I still trying to. I don't.
Let me give you my 5 cents, Owen, because like you say, they keep talking about it, and a lot of people don't understand. To me, marital rape happens at the end of the relationship. I don't think it happens during the relationship. I mean, I don't know. This is just my 5 cents. I think when persons are already, you know, legally separated, but we trying to decide who could get the house or who could get, you know, the assets. And so I refuse to move, and you refuse to move. So you staying in one room and he's staying in the next room. I think that's when it happens, or when there's a dispute. I can't see that me and you as husband and wife, and we just met tonight, and you decide to do, you know, go make advances, and I say no, and I go and report you, but then I can stay with you. And I expect us to still have a marriage after I get you charged for rape and you go to jail, you know? So to me, it happens when the relationship is at its end, or in divorce, or in separation, but we still perhaps live under the same roof, or we still have contact every day. And because there's already an issue. And so I think they need to establish that if you were legally separated or what have you, then yeah, perhaps. But you will rape me, I can say no, you will rape me, and then I can still stay in the marriage. That don't sound like sense. I don't know. You know, I don't know. Somebody else, that's my 5 cents. What you all think, ladies? Anybody else?
I
think
agree.
it's
Good morning.
once you're separated. So
Yeah,
once
it
you're
is.
separated, it doesn't have to be legally
Within my-
separated. If you're separated and someone comes and impose their will, and you say no, it's considered marital rape.
I think it's legally separated though, because then it have to have on some books or some document to say that y'all actually going through the process, because then they would just say, it's just she say, he say. I mean, sorry, he say, she say. We in together,
That's
so
right.
y'all living together.
Rape is he say, she say.
Yeah, but do you see yourself? Okay, and I'm not saying it does not happen, because men, sometimes men are aggressive and sometimes women are aggressive. But do you see, and if it's marital rape, will it be against the woman can do it as well? Like a man could go to the police station and say, my husband, or a man could go to the police station and say, my wife, I told my wife no, and she should be arrested, and then we can make back up. I mean, what y'all think about that? Or it's just against men?
For me, Miss Bullet, the honest truth is from 2017, we signed on to a treaty, right? And that treaty had certain things to say that we should change our laws because they say we're updated because a young child could be married at 13, child who 14 can commit murder or rape. And they're saying, well, these are not laws that are up to date and they need to be changed. And then they started talking about the marital rape, and then the Christian ministry and everyone got involved. So it's just the thing where as I keep on coming about is because we signed on to this treaty. We said we would do certain things. We said we would re-legislate and make it more updated, and we never did. So now with the violence that is occurring, like maybe in the last 5 years against women, now is an uproar again. Like in 2017, saying change your laws. Y'all say y'all would change it, do it. That's what it is.
Perhaps, yeah, so they can meet
Change
certain
it.
criteria. Yes, so we
the
can say,
criteria.
meeting certain, okay, that makes sense. Oh, and I hope that answers your question. Yeah, I think only when there's a problem. I don't see me saying my husband raped me and then trying to reconcile the marriage. I don't know. Is that good for you, Owen?
A little bit clearer.
Yeah, a little bit clearer. Yeah. Okay. What's your, from a male's point of view, what's your point of view? Do you, because a lot of men don't feel like, the Bible says we are now one, we are union, and you should not deny your husband, except for fasting. What's your view from male point of view? All right, too much women in here and you scared. you rather just plead the fifth. Owen, go outside. Owen, you didn't answer me back. Owen, you still there? Okay, Owen ain't answering me, ladies. He pleading the
Yes,
fifth.
I am. Yes, I am.
Oh, you was muted. Okay. All right.
Refresh that question for me, please.
No, I was asking from a male's point of view, what is your view on this marital rape situation?
That's the question. I mean, I'm trying to understand it, but I mean, like I say, women could probably use it to their advantage too. Like, I mean, I think you clarified it when you said that it's at the end of a marriage when you are both separated or divorced, and the man trying to sneak something from you or sneak peeks from you, whatever, and you retaliate and report him for rape. You understand? But I just couldn't see how two persons married, living together in the same room, and you just call out, oh, I was raped. I mean, I just couldn't understand that, but you clarified it more when you said it's at the end of the relationship. So it's more like you're looking at it as a spiteful gesture, if I could use that word.
No, I don't even say spiteful. It could happen. Think about it. You living in the house with your wife and you do not agree to this divorce. Some men just be like, well, you still my wife. You still living under my roof, but you only living there because rent expensive, or you don't have nowhere else to go, or you trying to prepare to move. And they could come and force themselves on you. That is a possibility. Correct? Or you think you still have rights because I live in your house. You still have rights anywhere. Tell me.
So when you get married, that was in yours no more. After a couple of years, that become a house.
Exactly.
Right. But Owen, do you feel that because we still, even though we're going through a divorce and we still under the same roof, do you feel that you still entitled?
That can be debated.
How can it be debated? Do you feel entitled or not? Yes or no? if this woman says no, do you believe that this woman cannot tell you no because she still live under your roof?
For the purpose of this class, I would say yes.
Yes, what you saying? Yes, she could tell you no, or
Yes, I'll say yes.
no. Owen, speak the truth. Don't worry.
For the purpose of this class.
I ain't letting them fight you in here, Owen. You're the only man in here. No, oh no, you're the only man. Mikhail, you've been very quiet. You don't want your 5%. Eh?
This is a
Where
very,
you been?
this
Or
is a
you was
very
in here
funny.
last week?
I had a small family emergency last week.
Oh, okay.
But this is a very sensitive topic. I do believe that, married or not, that a woman or people in general have full autonomy of their body. So if that lady say get off of me, get off of her. So I mean, I know a lot of people look at it from the religious standpoint, and like you said, we don't know what particular situation forces that lady to stay in that household. Like you said, maybe she doesn't have anywhere to go. Maybe she might just be embarrassed, but whatever the reason is, no husband or no man has the right to force themselves on a woman. It's very difficult to prove in a court of law, though. So I think maybe that's the difficulty.
Okay, Mikhail, thank you. I hope that ain't just for the purpose of this class answer. Because these
sorry.
ladies,
That wasn't for the purpose of this class.
Okay. These ladies done ready to eat Owen alive. Okay, Owen, don't plead the fifth. Owen done say what he say. Okay, Owen, you believe me. Okay, guys. So again, and we want to stay abreast of what's happening in the country and ensure that it makes sense. Okay, and give our view and our contribution because it's our country. Okay, so very good. And then know the laws if it is in place. Know that whether you feel that you are entitled or this is your wife, like Mikhail said, if they press charges, be prepared to be prosecuted, because that's what the law says. It's against the law. Okay, despite your beliefs or your views.
Ms. Bullitt, you know why I think the conversation even gets harder for men is because I don't think that men really voice when something abuse, financial, personal abuse, physical abuse happens to them. And that's why, because I remember when, I don't know if y'all remember this, when they had the news reporter, and I forget her name, but she was reporting how this woman strong arm this man and steal his wallet. And she must have didn't read the promo before and she started busting out laughing. And I think
that. I remember.
Right.
I just think that's our natural reaction, men and women, to when men voice their side of things, or when they say, oh yeah, my wife raped me, or my wife abused me and stuff like that. We just brush it off and say, oh, y'all can't get raped, or y'all can't get physically, or I think it's just because they don't voice it and they don't push for it more. So it's only like a one-sided type of conversation always going on.
Correct. Yes. Okay, very good, guys. So thank y'all so much for sharing. Okay, Benita, you put your hand down. You take too long, or you're sharing.
Good morning, everyone. Yes, ma'am. I still want to share. What I wanted to.
Let me ask you, did you read the article on online gambling?
Yes, ma'am, I did. I read all of that. I read that 2 weeks ago. So I got to flip back.
Did it answer your questions?
Yes, ma'am, it did.
Okay.
It clarified it a lot.
Okay, good.
But this morning, I wanted to talk about not a newspaper article, but rather the video that circulated. I think they put it on TikTok and all, but the former prime minister, he was talking about how he have 3 signatures and you have to make sure that you know what 3 of his signatures or whatever, for whatever reason, right? Mm-hmm. I'm not in banking. So my question is it possible? Like, is that allowed?
Why wouldn't it be? There's a signatory list and persons have the opportunity. Normally persons have an initial and a signature, and perhaps that's what he means. He probably has a signature that he signed on all legal documents as prime minister, perhaps a signature that he signed for his personal documents, and then perhaps an initial. And so remember, you're required to know your customer. And so you just have to ensure, because when he comes to do a transaction, you have to say the signature has to match. And he can, you can say, I sign like this sometimes, and sometimes I sign like that. The signature has to match. So it'd be best to get on. You can't tell somebody, oh, you only can have one signature.
Mm.
You know, I don't
So
know
another,
that being a policy anywhere.
oh,
But
okay.
Can I get, because with banking, like you can't switch up your signatures. If you come to us and you sign one way, if you come tomorrow and you sign something different, that's gonna be a problem.
If
So
it's
I
not on
don't.
the
Yeah,
signature card.
but
Yeah.
why should I sign in the bank as prime minister the same way I sign a proclamation? His signature
But
should,
that's-
if he keeps one signature, that can be easily used by persons. And so if he has a signature as prime minister, his personal documents or his personal banking signature can be a different signature. He
But
has
who
that
was it
right.
easy- but who was it easiest for, him, the customer, or the bank?
But
Like, so if
Remember, we offering a service.
And the reason that I objected is because I remember a case a couple of years back, or it may have been recently, where the court of law would have referred to the person's signature or the ordinary signature of the person. He did some fraud. I can't remember who was the name, and because the signature wasn't consistent with what he normally signed, it was determined that it was made fraudulent. So I don't know.
You talking about Lincoln Bean case with Roy?
Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. So that's why I'm of the view that your signature should be somewhat consistent.
It should, and in normal cases, it is. However, I've always worked in the offshore department, right? And so whatever these people say, you just get it up front. You know your customer, and remember, we have to remember that we offering a white glove service in this. If the prime minister or anybody else, we had the Bacardi account. If Mr. Bacardi said, I signed 3 different ways, I'm going to put the 3 signatures on the card, just make sure one of these 3 match. He wasn't gonna upset Mr. Bacardi and say, no, we only can take one, or we can't open this account, and he have like $500 million that you know what I mean? And so it would only be for the rich. It would be for the very rich. It wouldn't be for, Miss Bullet walking into the bank document. She have three signatures. The bank may say, no, Miss Bullet, choose one. But there's a card and there's space. And so you sign. And once the signature matches what's on that signature card, then it can't be fraud.
Ms. Ballard.
Yes, Justine?
Question, but shouldn't your signature match what's on your ID, your certified ID? Isn't that how we verify the signature? So
which is your certified ID, first of all? Let's
your passport, a government issued ID.
And if he signed the 3 signatures,
sign a different way, shouldn't they have an ID?
So if he signs his passport with the 3 signatures, then what? Doesn't it still match?
Not the passport. I mean, like if he has maybe a driver's license or something else that
on
has
your
a
driver's license, you sign where? Nowhere on the driver's license.
Yeah, you signed on your driver's
the front.
license.
You do?
Yes.
Okay, so if he signed the 3 signatures on the driver's license, then what?
No, but he never said that he had 3. He never said
differently on each
he had
ID.
3 formal signatures. So your bank signature specimen, I'm sure every time he goes into the bank, he signs the same way. If he signs a document as prime minister, there's no signature specimen for that. He signs his signature as he does prime minister. And if he wants to write a letter to his children, he could sign a different way. He has that right.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Once we have it on record. So if he walks into the bank and he signs differently from what's on record, then the bank has the right to reject it. But I don't don't think you have the right to reject him and say you have to sign one way. If he said these are my 3 signatures at account opening, you take those 3 signatures.
And if he changes it, he updates his signature card.
Right. Yeah, and we have to be careful. Remember that we are offering a service. Okay, so if it gets too many out of control, then we put a policy in place. But we have to make sure that that policy does not upset the customer and turn them away. Because when I was at Finkel Robinson Road, and we had a relief manager come in, because the manager went out on maternity leave, and she said, "Oh, this bank is too noisy." tell those customers not to use their phones whilst they are on the line. And I said, what? She's like, I'm making a sign. And so she went to her office and she made the sign and she put up on the wickets, no cell phones allowed whilst waiting in line. And so here she gave it to me. She said, Miss Bullet, please put these cell phone signs up. I said, oh no, I you can't tell the customers not. They you know. She said, I just think it's too noisy. You have 4 or 5 people on the phone. I said, but we offering them a service. You can't tell the people, they business people, you can't tell the people not to do it. She put up a sign, listen to me. Within 1 hour, head office had 10 calls and those signs was removed. Okay, so you have to be careful. Remember, you're offering a service. Now, if it's your policy, make sure that the policy is in line with what the customers want, not your feelings. Okay, go ahead, Felicia.
Good morning, all. Just to piggyback in reference to the actual signature verification, I work in private banking, and normally we are trained that yes, in the signature on the signature card, you are allowed, the customer is allowed to sign however many times they sign, because you're not perfect, you're not going to sign the same way. But we also use things in tandem. So, for example, you're going to have their IDs or their DNI cards, whatever cards you have, normally it has another signature. So if you see that you have, it's up to the discretion of the actual officer. If you see we were to receive an instruction with a signature on it, it's not at least 70% close to the signature card, we then go ahead and look at the IDs, because you're using it in tandem. So you would have done a call back to verify with the client as well. Or if the client, let's say, came in to get a withdrawal, the banker would have verified that they physically saw the client, so they can then certify the signature, even though it may not be 100% match. So if you're using things in tandem, you can sign in a variation of ways. Now, of course, it has to be close enough, because you're not going to sign. Let's say, for example, we had a client that came and he had a stroke 2 weeks before. His signature was very hard to get it to be close to the signature card, but because he was there physically, we were able to use the physical citing in tandem with the signature. And then you would have put in an activity report for the banker saying X, Y, and Z. And we also asked the client at the time to go ahead and sign again or create a new signature list, because the stroke obviously affected the way he signed. So if things are used in tandem, you just have to use your discretion in regards to not having to dictate to a client that they have to sign a specific way every single time. That's impossible.
Correct.
That's my 5% contribution for my grade. Y'all have a great day.
Okay, Felicia, thank you. And again, yeah, you know your customer. KYC is important. So anybody who has an issue, and if they they are wary or they're concerned, just put a memo to file. This person has 3 signatures. Please see the signature card, and then don't worry about it. But by all means, don't try and tell the customer that unless it's policy that it can't be done. Because you'll find very rich people, they are particular when it comes to stuff like that. The same thing with Bacardi is they didn't like change. And so every time interest was paid and they ended up with, they only wanted round figures. If they ended up with $1 million and $2, he would be outraged when he saw his statement. So we had to move that $2 or that $20 to make sure that he always had a round figure. That's what happens in private banking, so yeah. Jasmine.
So my niece works at a bank, right? And ironically, y'all talking about this today because she came home yesterday evening and I was by them and she said, you wouldn't believe what happened to me today. So she saw this tall person walk into the bank, got on a nice sweater top, a short pants, like a jean short pants, and some heels. I don't know, like a wigs or whatever. So when the person came to her wicket, the person came and they said they wanted to withdraw $500 off an account. So when she asked for the ID, now she said from the looks of the person, it's a transvestite apparently, right? So this is supposed to be lady. And when they passed the ID to her, it was a male with locks. So she said she was sitting there confused for a very long time because she couldn't figure out why this man come to the bank. First of all, dressed like this one, and he had a copy of his ID, he's not the original. And so she called her superiors and so we started carry on really bad in the bank. He was saying how he went to their other branch earlier and deposited $10,000 and they allowed him to withdraw $3,500. He can't see why there's a problem with him withdrawing $500 from this branch. In a situation like that, right, where you have somebody with an ID like that. Now, she say she didn't even get to the point with the signatories because she had to call her superior because it was like two separate persons. In a situation like that, how do you deal with a customer if I mean, like, okay, like she did call her superiors, but if it was you, Miss Bullet, and you had to deal with a customer like that, what would you have done?
Again, Jasmine, you're required to know your customer. And again, you don't want to be offensive just because, you know, you have different beliefs. Okay. And so therefore, you have to not discriminate. And that account officer should have a small memo on the file to say that this person is known as Jasmine and Jerome. You know what I mean? You're required to know your customer. And so at account opening, they on the account opening form, there is a name and a section for aliases, you know, and so you in this day and time, you have to take these things seriously. I mean, it may be a first time. I mean, we even have coworkers where we cannot discriminate against because they you know, want to transition. And in Royal Bank, we had some very, very flamboyant boys that they sent a particular branch where the lady was a pastor, and they were very good workers and very hard workers. But when you see that they go down to that branch, 100% of the times they got let go. She found a way to let them go. And for many years, it was discrimination because, like I said, they're very good workers, always to work on time. They did their work, but they, because of their lifestyle, she, you know, and she used her belief to try and let them go. So diversity is the order of the day. Not everybody looks like you. Not everybody believes the same thing that you believe. You will never ever work in an institution where you all have the same beliefs or you all want the same things. And so this is 2022, you know.
But Miss
If you want to
Bullet,
keep your jobs, you cannot be discriminating.
but Miss Bullet, he did not have anything like that. He just came in with a different ID. There was nothing
No,
attached to the file or anything like that.
You are required to know your customer. So you should
Wow.
know that sometimes he is Jasmine and sometimes he is Jerome. Correct?
Yeah, like I said, she said yesterday, he does, okay, he does, he said he does, that was the first time him coming into this bank. He normally does banking at the Shirley Street branch, but
Okay.
she was at the mall branch and he came in, there's nothing attached to his file and anything of the sort. So she said she was confused because this
Yeah,
lady
but
came
let that
in.
be the last time she is confused, because would you want somebody discriminating against you because of your beliefs or your culture
No.
or whatever? So therefore, they should be sensitive and they should now put something in the system or put something on file and say that this is who he is sometimes, and we can verify that sometimes he is Jerome and sometimes he's Jasper.
Okay.
But
Be
but she
sensitive.
said the person came in with a copy. Oh, don't get me wrong. I understand that you have to not discriminate because we have clients that transition all the time and we have to ask them to give their new IDs. But in an instance of this being a commercial bank, more than likely that person came in with a mask. So you're not seeing that person's face. The appearance is different. What my concerning question is out of all of this is the lady mentioned that the individual brought a copy of the ID.
Yes.
Why do they have their original ID? In addition to that, why have you just made a deposit? That's a flow through account. If you just made a deposit of 10,000, you took 3,500. Why did you then go to another branch to get an
To take
additional
off the
500?
500. Exactly. It was so much questions.
Yes, but if it's within his, remember now, it's so much questions if it's not within his profile. Y'all don't know what's on his profile. And that's, again, we automatically assume the best, not the worst, right? And don't treat anybody suspiciously. And just because he is transitioning does not automatically mean he's no longer honest or he's not law abiding.
You need to
so
upgrade his. You need to upgrade his
do your due
ID.
diligence. Yeah, but the bank and you don't just go. You have to go apply for a deed pool. You have to pay a deed name change. You pay $1,000. Then you gotta go down to the old passport office and wait 2 more years. So y'all should have these conversations.
Okay, but you want to be very sensitive and you don't want to lose business. Okay.
Just for clarification, I wasn't making the point of the transitioning. I'm totally, that's up everyone's prerogative. My only questions were
the transactions.
Copy of the ID, you going to another branch to do another transaction. That was my only, him being whatever, if you want to wear pink, whatever, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. The question for me was, why is there a copy of the ID? And if there is, as a person, if I work the counter, I would then ask or be notified that, listen, this is a copy of an ID. I cannot verify this in the original state. Do you have a police record perhaps to suggest that maybe it is lost? Or have you, like, I need to know why you come in with a copy of an ID and not the actual ID. If it's lost, then you have a police report that you should have with you because you would have reported it lost.
Are we no longer doing signature verification?
I mean, this is 2022. Yeah, so everyone should have centralized systems where you pull up the customer's ID.
Right, you pull up the
customer walk in
right.
with an ID. Come on.
My passport on my phone. I've never traveled my passport on my phone.
Same.
Right, but are we not doing signature verification any longer?
Of course, everything should be in the banking the bank system. Right. A customer should not have to come with a
They should not have to come with an ID. Yeah. Yeah. So just be sensitive. That's all what I'm saying. Be sensitive and ensure these persons don't feel like they're being victimized or you know, because they automatically jump to that. Okay, so be sensitive and use that opportunity and say, you know, let's update your file so we can know who to it. There, sometimes you may be, like I say, Jasmine, sometimes you may be Joe. You know, so know your customer is the bottom line. Know your customer. Okay. Okay, good. Very good. Very good provocative discussion. Thank you so much, class. I'm encouraged that you are reading the newspaper and that you were well-rounded and you know, we will leave here open-minded and would have gotten all the value for the investment that we made. Okay, very good. Felicia, you want to say something else?
Hi, Ms. Bullard.
Hi.
I know you were speaking about knowing your customer, but that bank, which is on Shirley Street, they don't know their customer.
Who is that?
At that branch, just don't know.
Okay.
I thought my name was showing.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Okay.
No, I was asking you. You said at the bank on which?
That's CIBC on Shirley.
Oh, the CIBC. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, they don't know their customer. They don't. You have been banking at the bank for over 40 years, and at the end of the day, they don't know their customer.
Yeah, yeah. And so again, Donna, in 2018, remember now, even though these laws have been in place from 2000, we have just updated and now enforcing, right? And so from 2018, they have about 1,000 customers, so they just getting on board to knowing that I really need to know who these people is. You know, they didn't believe they had to do it because they operated, like you say, for 40 years without being enforced. Now, because of the way the world is, all the hackers and the scanners, you better know who these customers are. You know, or your customer, or your bank could be infiltrated.
But I've been banking for 40 years. Whether they had
Donna, they done had 40 people in that one position. So some of them people even been there.
Yeah, but I'm sure that the account should speak for itself. I mean, you know.
Yeah, yeah. But see, the thing about it is, when we move, and this is what we're talking about right now in the next 4 chapters, chapter 4, we're back to this risk-based approach. Before, it used to be rules. We open the account, we have her account information identification on file. We create a profile and she stays within that. Now it's changed to the risk. What is the risk of doing business with Donna? We don't know because we don't know Donna. What we have to do now, we have to get to know Donna. Okay, so it's just the change in how we do banking. And we've moved from just opening accounts to relationship banking. Okay.
No, but if you have a business, I'm sure you have a relationship manager. And if you have a business that, like I say, is operating, you know, with that account for over 40 years, then I feel like the relationship manager should, even like I said, those measures were not in place, they should know that customer. That's how I feel.
They should, Donna, but all of us overwork and underpaid, and they just even fix relationship managers to be client facing, and they take away all administrative duties. They didn't understand that you can't be out there bringing in sales and doing the administrative part. So a lot of the administration fell down, and so now they've moved some banks, not even the the forward thinking CEOs have restructured the function, and now they extend banking hours, because people work 9 to 5. You can't sit up in the bank for on your lunch hour for 2 hours. Now they have we could call by appointment. We'll see you on Saturday. We staying open till 7. So and a client had to write into a particular bank and say, "Mister, I on the roof working. You sitting in the office and air conditioning. You come out to me if you want me to open up a new account or to send me a product or service." And so now we have the bankers going on the road out to the customer. Okay. We in the offshore world, we had a lot of customers that say, come talk to me face to face, and they're in Switzerland or somewhere in Europe. You had to fly out to them. So a lot of changes have been made, and now either institutions don't want to spend the money or they don't believe they have to do all these things. But now they are freeing up the time for the sales or the account officers to actually get to know these customers. Okay, so just give them a chance. If they don't know you in the next 2 years, then yeah, hopefully, and then a lot of them are not trained.
Give them a chance, but at the end of the day, they could block my account, and my customers, are affected by it. So, like I said, I guess.
Yeah, but make it a point too to get to know your officer and say, let me give you some information so this doesn't happen again.
Why should I do that? And you just said that.
Because you don't want to be inconvenienced. Because you don't want to be
inconvenienced.
Sorry, Donna, you went out. I can't hear you.
Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Oh, sorry. I'm saying, why should I have to go and to meet them and I'm bringing business to them?
Because Donna, we don't live in perfect, and if you don't want to be an inconvenience, I just say I don't want to be inconvenienced. I don't want my staff not to be paid. I don't want my account to be blocked. So I give them as much information as possible. In fact, I just opened an account, and the lady did not know, who I was or anything, and so she was opening up my account, and I was opening up a business account, and she kept asking me, I have some rental units, to bring in information on my rental units. And I had to say, but this money is not from my rental units. Why are you trying to get the source of funds from my rental units? This is not where I got the money from. And she kept insisting, oh, that's what our compliance department wants. I said, but I got this money from somewhere else. Shouldn't you be verifying or asking me for a copy of the will where I got this money from? And that's how I declare the funds. I can bring in the rental units, but that's not where the money came from. And she's like, oh, okay, let me go talk to compliance then. And then she comes back 2 weeks later. Okay, then give us a copy of the bill and show us the check that you received. But she was insistent, like they just don't ask questions, and a lot of them still aren't trained. Okay, so help them out. Those who know better, do better, ought to do better, and just be helpful. This they ain't there yet.
Okay.
Okay, good. Jade?
Hi, so I have a question in reference to Jasmine's needs. When you say know your clients, so I assume she was working in a teleposition, and Jasmine has said that she went to another bank. I guess that wasn't her personal bank where she does her banking. How, if there's nothing in the system to prompt her that this person goes by 2 names or whatever, I mean, what else was she supposed to do other than?
But she did the right thing and call up her manager. However, there has to be something in the system.
Because it's not even the teller's job to update these customers' profiles, isn't
right,
it?
but no, but there's an account officer's name, and she should have gone to the account officer and said, "Are you familiar with this person?" And the account officer should have been said, "Yeah, that's Jerome and Jasmine."
But what happened is she said after she called her superior, right? The lady came and was talking to the customer and they advised her to go back to the branch that she made a transaction the first time because they had no knowledge of what was going on there.
That was very inconvenient. That ain't customer service at all. Why
But
does
if she,
CIBC have 5 branches if you have to go to the same branch every single time?
but that's what I'm saying.
That's
So
not service.
that's what Jade's asking. If okay,
That's not
so
service. No, their system is there. It's very savvy. They have a notes section. You could put a
It should
note
have been in the
to make
system.
it
That's
pop
what
up.
you're saying.
That's what Jade is saying. It should have been in the system, but they didn't have anything in their system with this person.
But
she didn't
why
have
is
a
that the
choice.
customer? Why is that the customer fault, and why should the customer now be inconvenienced to go to another branch to stand on another line? Did they arrange for that person not to stand on line when they reached their branch? Because I would have a problem with that. First of all, I wasn't moving. I definitely wasn't going to another branch. I definitely wasn't standing on another line. These lines out the door. So that's inconvenience. You would have to close my account that day. Okay, so think about the service that you offer. Think about your duty. Your duty to the customer. You're required to know your customer. It ain't the customer fault that your system ain't updated and this and that and that. That's inconvenience. So do your job. Right, Donna? Do your job, right, Donna?
Sorry, yes.
Yes, okay. You don't inconvenience the customer. Okay, good. Very, very good. So again, we have loads of time to talk about risk, and I promise you by the end of the 4 chapters, we will have it down packed. It's a little bit complex. It's cloudy at first, but then hopefully, everybody can digest it and understand it. Now, for those of you who are intro, we covered the basics, and I told you that we would dive deep into it when we got to intermediate. So I don't know if anybody was an intro and they had the opportunity to read chapter 4 and they want to remember this is now supposed to be discussion based. So we want to get into having a discussion. So anybody wants to give an overview of what this risk-based approach is Ms. Bullitt is talking about, recommendation 1. Anybody have an overview as yet, or no, it's still cloudy?
So I read over the chapter, and from what I get, it says the risk-based approach. That's what you're looking for?
Yes.
Okay, used by companies depending on how they do business with you, your risk appetite. It is an approach of the company, it is the approach a company takes to risk. All risk could be properly assessed and take note to risk indicators when with countries and businesses. When conducting businesses. A company should take the risk-based approach when doing business to see if there's any money laundering or terrorist financing going on. It is measured by the likelihood of the illegal activity and the likelihood of the likelihood that a risk will materialize or the expected damages if it does not materialize.
Okay, very good. Okay, and so again, remember the 40 recommendations, and the very first recommendation is countries must assess their risks and then put controls in place to mitigate that risk. Okay, that's recommendation 1 from the FATF. So of course, we know how the law works: international standard, Bahamian law, then guidelines from the regulator, and then we have our own anti-money laundering policies and procedures within our organizations. So international standards says countries must assess their risk and then put controls in place. So how really does a country assess their risk? They go to their industry, okay? And we saw that the 5 regulators that are included. So the gaming board would go out to all the number houses and the casinos. The Securities Commission goes out to all the broker dealers and the securities firms. The central bank goes out to all the banks. The Insurance Commission goes out to all the insurance places. The Compliance Commission goes out to the lawyers, accountant, real estate firms that have a corporate service providers arm. And then they compile all this information from their industry, and they put controls in place based on what the the information that they receive from central bank getting from each bank. Okay, Lee Antoinette, I hope you I got your message. Thank you. Okay, so that's how the risk of a country is determined. And so when we talk about putting controls in place and taking this risk-based approach, like I said earlier, it changed from the rules-based approach, where there was a bunch of rules that you followed and you checked the box. Do we follow this? Yes or no? So again, it was blanketed, and it really didn't work out because a lot of rules were not applicable to industries, and in some cases, a lot of organizations were not following the rules. And so they said, let's tailor this to each organization. Let's tailor this based on the services and the products that you offer. Let's build this framework, this risk framework. It's going to be threefold. We are going to put a risk appetite in place. That means, do I have an appetite for pets? Do I want to do business with politically exposed persons? And the controls I need to put in place in order to do business with pets. That means I'm going to let my board sign off on every PEP account. The compliance officer can approve a PEP account by him or herself. The board will sign. So that's a control to protect against the risk associated with pets. Okay, are we going to do business with Russia? Yes or no? What are the controls in place? We have to ensure that we follow all the sanctions. So if it's sanctioned by the world, because Russia was very volatile, that we have a plan. So what are we going to do with all this Russian money now that we have in our bank, now that it's sanctioned? What do we do when the correspondent bank won't take the money? Do we prepare checks and send to Jasmine and say, I'm sorry, I can't pay your salaries this week? Okay, so there has to be a control in place, and there has to be an escalation plan. Okay, so that's the risk appetite. Then the risk assessment. What products and services do I offer, and what risks are associated with them? All this new technology. If we order debit cards, what controls we need to put in place? We saw that, like I said years ago, Atlanta's front desk was infiltrated. Okay, they didn't come directly to the bank that issued the machines to Atlantis to swipe the cards, but they went to the Atlantis front desk, and there was 100 and some 200,000, 300,000 in losses. Okay, what are the controls we are going to put in place to ensure that if indeed one of our merchants are infiltrated, we protect the banking system, we don't have this loss? So of course we know Visa and MasterCard, when there's proven fraud, they reimburse you at 100%. Okay, but now there's been so much fraud, I don't even know if that's still Visa and MasterCard.
Yeah, I can do it. I can't do it. Oh.
Sorry? No? Okay. Yeah, we don't, I don't know if they changed that policy. If you were gonna travel, they say at minimum the bank needs to know that you're going to the Philippines, or if you're from the United States, you're going to the Bahamas, or they will block your card. That's a control that they have in place to protect your card whilst you travel. Okay? Risk assessment. And then risk rating. We are going to risk rate all our clients. We're going to put them in categories of high, medium, or low. Are they a high risk to the bank? Are they a medium risk to the bank? Are they a low risk to the bank? Okay, and in order for us to determine that, we are going to have a methodology that is to be followed. And that's very key, because most institutions, they have a risk rating system in place, but they don't understand the methodology. Okay, the methodology is how this form works. What will cause you to get a high rate risk rating? Where does this information come from? Okay, and risk rating is done on 3 levels as well. The country is risk rated, the bank is risk rated, or the broker dealer, or the real estate company, and then the client is risk rated. Okay, so there's 3 levels of risk rating. And of course, we know that the last time our country was risk rated was in 250 and 216, very, very old report. And the perception in the financial services world is that the Bahamas is high risk, when indeed it's not high risk. Okay, and so we looked at this. I don't know if any of you remember this from intro. We looked at the map of the world and we saw this risk rating. This is the legend. It's everything in green is low, everything in orange is medium, and in red is high risk. So of course we see Haiti there in high risk, in red, which is high risk. And many countries do not do business with high risk countries. Of course, we all know from intro that if a customer is high risk, enhanced due diligence is carried out on that customer. So of course, if the Bahamas goes any further and is high risk, enhanced due diligence has to be done on the customer, on the Bahamas. Okay, the level of borrowing, it will be capped. The interest rate that we borrow at will increase. And in one of the companies that I work, in order to open up an account, the application fee was $250. If you were high risk, it was $1,500. Then we did a investigation on you that is called a proximal report, and that was $1,500 a person to spare. So if you had 4 persons on that account, that was $6,000 just to open that account. Okay, and you could possibly be denied. If those proximal reports came back with negative media or negative information, because the proximal was connected to Interpol, and they would go into your country and do a full investigation on whether you were corrupt or not corrupt. Okay, and a lot in the offshore world, I mean, that sounds like a lot of money to us, but persons paid that in order to open an account. Okay, so the risk framework is risk appetite, risk assessment, and risk rating. And we see that it's on the country level, on the institution level, and then on the client level. And of course, there's a net effect. If your clients are high risk, they are going to be subjected to enhanced due diligence, which is more costly and much more work. Then if more than 50% of your client base is high risk, then your company is high risk. And then if there are a lot of institutions that are high risk, then of course your country will be high risk. Okay, and so the governor has put in a lot of controls to try and ensure that the country overall is in high risk. So one of the things that costs you to be high risk is that you're too cash intensive. So now he is trying to put a moratorium on the amount of, I guess, casino licenses or gaming house licenses. And he put a moratorium on the amount of cash and go or the money services businesses, right? And so that means not too many licenses will be distributed. Then he created the sand dollar, because if you're too cash intensive, like I said, that causes you to be high risk. And so he created the sand dollar, which is the Bahamas's digital currency. And he strategically placed it through those money services businesses. And I guess they're working on how to place it through the Island Lux and the number houses to ensure that they're no longer cash intensive. Okay, because there's a net effect. If the industry itself is is high risk, then of course the country at large would be high risk. Okay, is that clear so far? We understand recommendation 1, we understand the risk framework, and then we understand how risk rating works. Correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. Okay, and so the book goes on to talk about, like I said, the methodology. The methodology should be clear. It should tell you how it works, what goes into ensuring that these persons are risk rated properly. And I would have showed you all this in the intro, and this is actually one of the questions on the final exam. It talks about the methodology for your risk framework on a country level. And of course, there are 5 domains, and the quality of your AML framework is 65%. And here it is, that FATF mutual evaluation report that we always talked about. So this is 35%. And so of course, like I said, the Bahamas was deficient in 22 of the 40 recommendations. I think we are now largely compliant, or compliant in 30 and largely compliant in 10. And there's a few tweaks that we need to do. And so when our risk assessment for the country is complete, they are then not only going to look at the risk assessment, but our mutual evaluation report to find out, did we indeed satisfy all the recommendations that were outstanding? Okay. The tax justice network on secrecy is 20%. Bribery and corruption, and of course we talked about our corruption perception index. So let me just show you the risk assessment. Is this open? Okay, this is how the old risk assessment for the country looks. Okay, and like I say, whenever you're reading a piece of work, a lot of times there are a lot of pages. You go directly to the table of contents, and you can see this is the table of contents for the entire country. So you can look at this and see how small it is and deficient it is. So a lot of our industries, in order for our risk assessment to be completed, had to be regulated. So this was 2015 and 2016, and just in 2015 was when the number houses were regulated. So there's just minimal information here about the number houses. The designated non-financial financial businesses, which are the real estate companies, the lawyers, and the accounting firms that have a corporate service providers arm, not the ones that the criminal lawyers. Okay, they were just regulated in 2019. So I'm surprised on page 14 they actually have any information about them. They it has to be very limited, and it does not give an overall correct assessment. Okay, because they weren't even regulated back then. Okay, so that is where we are at. We had to fix a lot. Those 22 deficient recommendations, they first of all had to be updated in law. After they were updated in law and all the law changes took effect in 2018 and 2019 and 2020, then they had to be enforced. So in 2018, recommendation 1 was updated. Somebody wants to say something? No? No? Okay. Y'all are very quiet. Are y'all following me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Okay. All right. So in 2018, the laws were updated. So now that the laws are updated, then the policies or the guidelines from the Securities Commission, from the Central Bank, from the Compliance Commission is now updated. And then the policy internally, the AML policy internally in each of our institutions are now being updated. And so if the law did 218, Central Bank, luckily, did 218 as well with their guidelines. And so we saw all the changes from 218 to 219. The compliance department was trying to put all these changes into their organizations. Some systems had to be bought. The Central Bank, as well as Securities Commission and the Compliance Commission, had to hire persons, had to train them, and then enforce these laws. So now we are in 2022, you know, in 2019 was the first time that the risk assessment had to be done, and we really did not know what to do. Okay, but however, if we did not submit it by June 22nd, we got a fine, and a lot of the credit unions were just being regulated by the central bank, so they didn't do it, and they didn't believe they had to do it, and some of them didn't even have a money laundering reporting officer or a compliance department, so they were just hiring, and so they simply just missed it. Okay, and were fined like $50,000 for just missing the date. Because remember now, we're being internationally watched, and we are in an enforcement era. And so these things can no longer just be swept under the rug. In fact, to ensure that we're not sweeping it under the rug, the FATF said that they will send a representative into the FIU, into the Securities Commission, into the central bank to help with enforcement, because they knew that the analytics department was just being established, and they had a lot of new hires who simply did not know what to do yet. So what would you think would happen if they came in to help? Anybody? If this
Well, you could repeat that question, please.
Okay, the FATF said they wanted to send persons strategically to the different regulators and to the FIU. So remember, before 2018, we didn't have a lot of persons, we didn't have anybody being charged with money laundering, because money laundering was not a predicate crime on our books. After 2018, there were a backlog of cases, right? The Attorney General is now reporting that 176 persons have now been charged with money laundering. But the FATF said, let me send a representative from the FATF to help the Bahamas prosecute these people. Let me send somebody into the central bank to help enforce it on the banks, to help enforce it on the broker dealers, to help enforce it on the real estate companies, so they would know that we are serious. What do you think would happen if that help was sent?
Many people would be in jail.
Okay, correct. And more persons were prosecuted, and no sweeping under the rug, right? And so therefore, not plenty banks would have been fined as well, because they missed the deadline. And so basically, we had to be enforced right away and say, listen, we don't want these people to think that we're not enforcing. So therefore, we have to find you. You have to fire somebody. Somebody has to be held accountable, or somebody has to go to jail, or they're going to help. In fact, the only reason the FATF is not here is because of the pandemic. They were supposed to come in May of 2020, but only because of the pandemic, they did not physically come and set their representatives up in the different government institutions to help. Okay, so this is why recommendation 1 had to be enforced. And so not only was the AML part of the risk assessment required, the enterprise-wide part of the assessment was required. So that meant we needed an assessment on the HR department. What are the risks associated with HR? On the finance department, what are the risk assessments of risk associated with finance and with credit? And what I experienced was, you know, we didn't have a risk officer at that time. So of course, all of this fell on compliance. And everybody was in my office saying, well, Ms. Bullitt, we don't know anything about risk. We don't know what to do. I say, but I don't know what to do either. Okay, so I had to insist that the company hire a risk person, right? And even after they hired that risk person, we had many trainings with the executives. Listen, you are the head of HR. We can assist you. However, this is your job to, you know, document the risks associated with HR, because we are not going to sit in HR every day. So you have to be the gatekeeper. And so that's when the 3 lines of defense was established. The front line and the managers are the first line of defense. Compliance is the second line, and audit is the third line. Okay, so compliance is everybody's business. Risk is everybody's business. But Ms. Bullitt won't sit there in HR every day. I will check a percentage of what HR does. But HR has to onboard new employees, ensure that they know what the law states, ensure that background checks are done. And so they need to put in controls to ensure that they hire the right people. And so one of the controls is that we are going to do background checks. That not only HR has the hiring decision, HR as well as the manager of that particular department that is hiring a new person. So if it's finance, the finance manager is going to sit in the interview with the HR person. Okay, we are going to send out a job description that has a minimum standard on it. You must have sufficient education as well as sufficient experience. These are the controls. And so we have a controlled list that we list these various controls that we put in place, okay, to mitigate the risk that we may face. Okay, and so back to the methodology.
Ms. Bullitt,
yes,
you can offer an example of how the controls for the employees come into play, I guess.
Okay, so if we are going to onboard a new employee, our control is that we're going to do a background check on them. We also going to ask for a police record, right? And so that protects the institution for hiring persons who has a criminal background. Correct? Because there are many persons that work in the financial services sector that have a criminal background. In fact, it seems like if you're a criminal, it's easier for you to find a job. Because let's look at the Johnson guy, the youth pastor who just got fired from the Ministry of Finance for stealing $400,000. He was fired from three other banks for stealing. How did he get a job at the Ministry of Finance? Somebody tell me, please. You all know who I mean? The youth pastor?
Somebody must have known somebody.
At 4 institutions?
Yeah.
And
he knows somebody high up.
Yeah.
You all need to increase your network, because I don't even know these. If Ms. Bullitt ain't even teeth, and it's hard to find a job. But over the years, whilst I was at Royal Bank, we had many persons that got fired for thieving, and I talked with the next week. I saw them out there function. I was like, hey, how you doing? Yeah, I had Atlantis now. Oh, I had Bahamas. Oh, I had this offshore bank out west. And I was like, but we fired you for stealing. How?
These companies probably just don't do their proper background check, and for true, because I don't understand that.
You know what it is? I think that it is that maybe the banks just start the prosecution, but they might not follow through. So if you don't follow through and you're not on your document, how could then I do a background check?
Correct. Very, very good, because this was the problem at Royal Bank. Royal Bank didn't want to suffer the reputational risk. So we had loads and loads of persons that was brought before the court initially and then just didn't show up. Royal Bank didn't show up. They didn't want to pay the legal fees, and they didn't want the customers to start to say, well, my God, every week a Royal Bank employee in the news. And so they just did not prosecute a lot of persons. Okay. And so now that the law has changed and stealing by reason of employment is considered theft, and theft now falls under money laundering. If you listen to the news, when these persons, well, they're not hauled before the news any longer, but when they used to be, you would hear that they are charged with stealing by reason of employment and money laundering, fraud and money laundering. And so will Royal Bank not be able, or any other institution not be able to show up the court to produce evidence now that there's a money laundering charge attached? I don't know. Okay, they may have to suffer the reputational risk now that the law has changed. But like I said, many persons have not been prosecuted. However, they do ask for a outside of the police record. They do ask for a reference from your past employer. What these past employers saying?
And some people is still like there's call. So I don't understand how people like slipping through the cracks.
And they slipping. And I talking about that you don't. I can't get one job without a record.
Hey.
You don't have 4. Okay.
Y'all can drop me the time with church you got to today.
Sorry?
What's up? What time?
For 1 o'clock, like, look, you're Senegal. I'll
Sorry.
be there for long.
I'm trying to
Mute
say
your mic,
someone was late
please.
for you.
Let me get it.
Crystal,
Let me get
you can't mute your mic.
Oh, shoot.
Crystal.
Sorry about that.
Okay. Yeah. So methodology. Let me show you all again. So this is the methodology that how the Bahamas will be risk rated. And similarly, we'll have on the client level, I guess on the company level at the regulators, they probably have audit issues, quality of risk framework, responsiveness to the regulator, and what have you. So Transparency International Corruption Perception Index is in there. And this is how it looks. This is the old Corruption Perception Index. And I know I told you the story, excuse me, when I, 1 week I had paid salaries to Russia and Madagascar and Kuwait. And the next week I was told that we're not allowed to do business with countries that have a CPI index of less than 30. And so these are the Corruption Perception Index. And it depends on if your presidents or your prime ministers are impeached, if your ministers goes to jail. And so this is corruption perception. And so if we look down, we see that our corruption perception is 64. This was in 2019. We perhaps need to look at the new 2022 one. Again, anything under 45 is considered high risk. If you have a corruption perception over 45, it's you're good. So we are good. I think this is at 65 now for the Bahamas. And so let's look at the countries where they say we don't do business with countries below 30. And so this is a Russian country. Of course, you see Ukraine, but years ago, like I said, when we talked about sanctions, there was one of Putin's right-hand man who was the president of Russia. And that's when he signed Ukraine over to Putin. And this is why Putin feels that he should own Ukraine now that it's doing better. So back in the day, Ukraine used to be on every block list and you couldn't do business with Ukraine. But since this new president has come in, and has said that it was illegal, after they signed over this portion of Ukraine to Putin, they voted that president out. And so this new president now is fighting for the country and fighting to get, I guess, ownership back because it was an illegal transfer to Putin, and this is why Putin is fighting them. So Ukraine was, they increased the corruption perception to 30. It's still low, but that still meant that you could do business with them back in 2019. Okay, but they said we don't do business with anybody who is 29, and so here it is. 1 week I had sent, like I said, the payments. The next week they blocked it. And see, there's Cameroon. I had sent a payment to Cameroon. There's Madagascar. And Russia should be, I think Russia was 29 at that time. There's Russia. I don't even see, oh, Russia was 28, yeah. And so they said, Ms. Bullitt, I'm sorry, we can't pay those salaries, and so when we found another correspondent bank in Europe, because of course the US had them blocked for a very long time, okay? And so our customers in Cameroon, we had to, just prepare a check because we couldn't send a wire and we just couldn't do business anymore. The Bahamas has a big Venezuelan book, right? No correspondent bank, sends their wires now. I guess there's one somewhere in Europe because they're still active and sending monies around. So what is important is your country's risk rating, whether it's high, medium, or low, and your country CPI index, whether it's above 45 or not. Okay, and not only, where is Puerto Rico? I want to show you Puerto Rico because during Hurricane, I can't remember, Maria, I think it was Puerto Rico, prior to Hurricane Maria, Puerto Rico which is a US outlying island, had a very high CPI index. However, because the US did not support them during Hurricane Maria, their CPI index just dropped, and they used to be in the 60s, and then all of a sudden they just sat off the list. So persons did not know what was happening or what to expect, and it was simply because the US did not support Hurricane, Puerto Rico after, President Trump didn't send in the people to do proper electrical work to establish water and electricity, and they felt that the governor of Puerto Rico would have taken like bribes or money from drug dealers or from human traffickers. And so, of course, after we had Hurricane Dorian, they were, Menace was out there, and a lot of persons, said he couldn't raise the money, and there was a lot of backlash. But the world was watching. Will he go? The Bahamas is considered a transit country. Will he go and take money from the drug dealers and to get his country back, online? And so you have to be very careful, because your CPI index will drop, and that means persons will not do business. And at that time, we had a lot of banks approach us to open an account out of Puerto Rico, but we simply said we couldn't, because there's no rating on the CPI index. Your CPI index has dropped so low because it's perceived that your mayor is going to do some shady business to get the country back to where it needs to be. So it does not have to be something political. That was an act of nature. That was an event that happened to the country, and all these types of things can cause your corruption perception to decrease. Okay, so you want to be aware of that, and that's a part of what makes up, back to the, the methodology. No, I can't find it now. Methodology, there you go. Corruption perception index, and then trace bribery index. Our trace bribery index is 81%. This is 5%. So I think the closer you are to 100, it's good. And we are 81 in terms of bribery. But again, we had 4 politicians being brought before the court for the first time ever. All of them were let go. They were not charged. Will the international regulators look at us as if we playing around? Because of course we know with Shane Gibson, that was in his first rodeo. That was not the first time he was accused of something. And again, he won, and now he wants to go as far as sue the government for reputational risk. What if the international regulator was in at the time? I don't think his case would have gone the way it went. Also, Kendrick Dorsett, just last week, his charges were dropped. Will these charges being dropped and nobody being prosecuted and monies are missing, will that cause our bribery and corruption rate to decrease? We don't know, okay? But it could, because I'm certain that if 4 or 5 persons are being brought before the court and nobody is charged, it seems as if we are not being effective again. Okay, so look out for that. Okay, so make sure that you understand the methodology. So again, we will talk about risk ratings and the categories for risk ratings, I think, when we get to like chapter 7, but you can go into your institutions and I don't know, sometimes these things are kept a secret, but sometimes you can go and look on the back end of your risk assessment and see what are the categories that make up your risk assessment. How are you risk rating these clients, and where methodology is, where are you getting this information from? And a big problem is that Transparency International and the Basel Committee, they update each year, but we don't update our categories each year. So we don't even know that Russia moved from, like, say, medium to high, because we didn't make any changes, right? We have the same old information from 10 years ago. So you have to ensure that you are updating your information, because before these things used to be stagnant. And like I said, around the world, it was not only the Bahamas that was not compliant. Switzerland wasn't compliant. They were deficient in 20-something all over Europe. And so the world, like I say, is now updating, and enforcing. Okay, and so you want to ensure that all these things are checked and that you understand what makes up how you risk rate the client. Okay, is that clear? Any comments? You're still there or you're asleep? You're sound like you're asleep.
We're here.
Yeah, you're there. Okay. Okay, so you want to understand, you want to ensure that the methodology is easy to update, it is explainable, it's operational, and no longer a secret, because persons need to understand. No longer a secret that we have had salespersons go out and speak to Russian clients and send our account opening forms and spend 2 weeks trying to convince a client to open the account, to only be told that Russia is not in our appetite, because they just didn't know what the bank's appetite was. They didn't know that we only deal with specific countries. Okay, so back in the day, like I say, the strategy and everything would have been kept a secret. However, you know, persons need to know. Compliance is everybody's business, so you need to have as much information to, you know, on the systems and how it works and the appetite of the country, of the organization, to make good decisions. Okay, and then you want to think about inherent risk of the products and services. You want to ensure that controls and processes and policies and procedures and best practice, like everything can't be in policy. And we have some really persons who is just, we call them barriers to good policy. You know, they expect every single thing to be in writing. They manipulate policy and procedure, and they just feel like compliance is a hazard to doing business. It is expensive, and you do have to follow the law. However, if you are very savvy, again, we learned you must always avoid and never evade, right? And so you have to be very savvy to make sure you avoid. So you want to ensure that any risk that's inherent to the company, it can be identified. If we bring on a new product or service, and then you want a control in place. Okay, how do we ensure that we don't hire anybody with a criminal record? Our control is we get a police record. Our control is we do a background check. Our control is we get a reference from a company that they used to work for prior. Okay. Identifying and assessing risk. There are 4 steps. There's risk identification, and this is a company's exposure to risk, which requires external knowledge of the market and the company. Also, you should have knowledge of the company's strategic and operational objective, along with the threats and the opportunities related to the achievement of those objectives. So how do we do, you know, carry out risk identification? You want to do a SWOT analysis. And if you took any of the business classes, you should know what a SWOT analysis is. It's where you document the company's strength, the weaknesses, the opportunities, and the threats. Are we familiar with SWOT analysis? Anybody? No.
I'm not.
You know? Okay, so it's what most.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so it's done really at an executive level, and as you, I guess, take classes at the institute, you will learn. I think we taught it in customer service or supervisory skills. You just document what would be a strength in this organization, what would be a weakness, what would be an opportunity, and what would be a threat. And based on those threats, you put controls in place to protect your company against those threats. Okay, opportunities could be that the staff need more training, or we need more parking. Strengths could be that this is a Fortune 500 company, and if we did it on Atlantis, Fortune 500 company, very strong brand. Okay, weakness is Bahamas just open and they offering the same service, and Bahamas might be a little bit cheaper, and Bahamas has a whole college for their staff to keep them trained. Opportunities for Atlantis could be that we need a college to keep our persons trained, and a lot of people can complain about how big it is. And so perhaps those little scooters that they have in Walmart for the older people who can't walk so long, and then the threats, again, Bahama and the competition and the price and what have you. And so you complete a SWOT analysis on your company, and you should get good information from that. Okay, and that's how you identify any risk that you may be susceptible to. Of course, threats, after their front desk was infiltrated, new technology, we have to have proper controls in place, protect our front desk again from being hacked. Okay, risk analysis and an assessment again of the proper probability that an event will occur. And again, through this, this is what we do at onboarding. We risk rate our customers. We put them in categories of high, medium, or low. That's based on the information that they would have given us, based on the jurisdiction of their passports, their nationality, where they work, the type of business they're in. We do an analysis on them, and we decide, hey, Miss Bullet is high risk, Odia is low, Jasmine is medium, and we put those in put them in categories. And then what we do is each year, if you're high risk, we do a review to make sure that we know who you are, and if there are any changes, we put this on the system, we put this in the file, and so we know our customer. If you're medium, we review you every 2 years. If you're low risk, we review you every 3 years. Okay, and then there's risk evaluation. The company's appetite will determine whether we can do business with PEPs or not, whether we have that appetite for Russia or not. Okay, and then if we do have an appetite for PEP, we're not gonna let the compliance officer sign. We're gonna let a committee or the board approve those types of high risk. So everybody on board will know that the company would have made a decision as a whole, not Miss Bullet decided that Shane Gibson is her cousin, so she go open this account with Shane. No, the board, a group of collective like-minded persons will agree whether or not we will take on that business. Okay, and then risk treatment includes risk control and mitigation, risk avoidance, risk transfer. There's an indemnity insurance on your signature. Most companies, in fact, if you're regulated by the Securities Commission, the Securities Commission requires you have an indemnity insurance. And that just means that I'm a signatory on behalf of the Royal Bank of Canada. People can infiltrate the system. My signature could be forged. It could be a fraudulent check. And if there was no negligence on my behalf, my indemnity insurance will kick in and pay. And I should not suffer any damages. You know, because normally once the company is fined for some negligence or something, you know, that comes out of your salary, or they don't give you a bonus. And so therefore this indemnity insurance protects you when you sign off on behalf of the bank. So if you're not regulated by the Securities Commission and you do sign on the signatory list for the bank, make sure there's an indemnity insurance on your signature. Okay, so you don't have any repercussions, and if something does happen and you're not negligent, the insurance will pay. Okay, once the risk is evaluated and it's outside the company's risk appetite, if the risk falls within the risk appetite, it may be accepted. In this case, it should be monitored as risk changes over time. And I always say, you can only mitigate risk, you can't eliminate it. It's very frustrating to be in the compliance department, trying to train persons with policy and procedures. People don't listen. You have to tell them the same thing over and over again. And some people even take it to heart. You cannot take it to heart. You must know your policy and procedure. You must know your job function. You must know who you should escalate to, and you must speak knowledgeably to this when audit comes in and when the police comes in. When you don't speak knowledgeably, the first thing they do is say, give me your resume, please. Let me see how much experience he have, and let me see if he have any background education. we get it, and Owen only out of high school, we say let him go. And if they say, oh, well, Owen been here for 20 years, we say, okay, Owen has 2 years to finish the compliance program at the institute. We had some persons working in the accounting department, they didn't have a CPA or they didn't have any type of accounting degree. We gave them a time frame. If you can't complete the program in a certain amount of time, then you have to be replaced or demoted and somebody else come on top of you. The same thing in the securities field. In order to be a trader, you must have the Series 7. And so we have persons trying to be in the trading department or supervising the traders without the Series 7. So luckily the Securities Commission has clamped down on that. And you are not supposed to be hired. You know, we had 1 or 2 persons that were hired and they did not have the Series 7, and there were a lot of issues audit-wise in the securities department. And we simply said, you have 2 years to pass the Series 7, and one particular person could not pass, and so they had to let them go. Okay, so please don't be caught in that situation. Okay, make sure you understand the company's definition of risk. The scope of money laundering and terrorist financing with or without sanctions, the definition of customer types, the definition of regulated activity, and people take the customer types for granted. Everybody is familiar with what's required for an individual account, but when it comes to the businesses and the foundations and the trust, they're a bit more complex. So you want to ensure that you have somebody with trust step degree or who would have worked enough years in the trust department, and you want to have guidelines and checklists, and to ensure that you have requesting the correct information. You believe it or not, there are companies out there that do not ask the client the right questions, and they have 800 clients. And so when it comes to determining the client's profile, they are able to do it because they did not ask the right thing up front. And it's very difficult to go out to 800 clients and get them to sign anything after an account is open, okay? And to ask them questions. So you want to make sure that you have sufficient information in place, and you understand it. You want a list of the products and services offered by the company, and you want to understand if all this new technology, if you're going to offer the sand dollar, know how it's regulated, know the policy and procedure, and make sure that the policy what the regulator has versus your policy does not have any gaps. And this is why you want to follow your regulator, because a lot of times persons are confused and they don't put all the pertinent information. You have to be information seeking and go out and ensure that you understand the risk and vulnerability is, okay? And because the hackers and scammers are very savvy, okay? You want to know the channels, the products and services are delivered. Our office based in Jamaica, or if something happened in Trinidad, you need to know all these things, okay? Products and services and customers that are involved overseas. You should have a list of customers. Like I said, there's a AML report that the government has to know all the Russian clients and the value of their portfolio in the Bahamas. They just didn't announce it, okay? But they know because we do an AML report and it's separated by country. So you should know that 20% of our customers are from Venezuela, 10% is from Russia. Our big base is Brazil or the US, or we're just a commercial bank. But you should know there should be some analytics or statistics on who really your customers are. And that's where it starts. And okay, and you must know, because that's the only way you stop your company from becoming high risk, because you would say that, hey, we have a Venezuelan book and the company does not want to be overall high risk, so we can't open any more accounts because our Venezuelan book is already at 25%. And if it gets to 50%, that means the company overall is high risk, okay? Then you want to have a control library and next week I'll bring a copy of control library so you will see exactly how it works. But you want to document the controls so everybody would know these are the controls in place for customer due diligence. These are the controls in place for the sanction list. We looked at the sanction list. When you open the account, you are to word check, and then you are to check the sanction list, and then you are to print this and put it on file. Everybody should know the procedures. There should be a monitoring procedure. We are going to risk rate clients high, medium, or low. Every 3 years, the review must be done. Every 2 years, every year. Okay. There should be a monitoring for thresholds. The government or the guidelines from the central bank used to be 5,000, but the people put in 4,099, and then 10,000, they put in 9,099. Now it's 15, and they put in 14,99. Or there's a system now called smurfing, where I go to various branches, like Tamron, I think, was suggesting, like, why you going to different branches and why you doing this? And so the system should track this person. It's called smurfing. I deposit 2,000 here, 2,000 there, and 2,000 here. It's called smurfing. So again, you should know, you should the system should spit out a report and tell the compliance person in the back that something is happening. Compliance should put something in the system to say, hey, I am monitoring this account. You have to be insured not to tip the client off. There must be an escalation process now. Last week, Saturday, this entire sanctions list came out. Owen's name on that list and Owen name in our system. What are the next steps? We should know. Okay, there should be an exit process. Shane Gibson on our books, he just get charged. Our policy says once a person is charged, this an undesirable account. What's the process? Okay, there should be role-based training. Everybody should have a job description. Everybody should understand their description and their function and what they should do. Okay, we watched Dirty Money. We saw that even after the Mexican drug lords were found out, the Attorney General was involved. They had to put, HSBC had to put a action plan in place. They hired somebody who was not trained. They didn't give them systems or information to work with. They put them in an office far away so they would not hear what was going on. Okay, in 2019, when the risk-based changed from rules-based to risk-based, and we started to explain and train our executives and say, you are the head of HR, you're responsible to document the risk and we will assist you. They said, we don't do risk, you all need to hire a risk officer. And I tried to explain to them, even after we hire a risk officer, you still have a responsibility. We had to put it on their job description. And the new people that we hired, we had to explain to them, if you don't have sufficient information to deal with the risk in your department, you will have to not take this position. And they said, so what should we do? We never do risk in our life. And I said, there are courses at the institute you may sign up for, but I deal with numbers, I'm an accountant. I said, but then you cannot be the head of finance. You can't be the head of HR. You can't be the head of credit. Now you would expect us to go and take a risk class? Yes, we do. You expect us to take a compliance class? Yes, we do. If you want to hold the top position, you have to do it because you are the gatekeeper. Okay? Okay, and then, like I said, it's only as good as the day is completed. You can't check all these things every day, or you will be constantly changing all these functions. And so strategically you do a check. Normally when audit comes in, they don't check 100%, they probably check 25% of the low risk, 25% of the medium, and then probably 50% of the high risk. But again, you have to have everything risk rated, products risk rated, services risk rated, everything risk rated and on a watch list, so you would know when you would check it, because you would constantly have to change all these things. You want to verify steps. You want to sample key decisions. You want to document people who make decisions, who oppose, and who and why they are opposing. And because you know, 6 months from now, you're gonna remember why Ms. Bullock didn't agree to this decision or what was the reason. And she could have said, because it's COVID-19, we won't make this decision now. And so you want to document this, or we're letting the staff get off at 12 because, or the bank is closing early because it was COVID-19. You don't want to just make a decision and not document both sides, people who oppose and persons who agree. And then you want to verify steps. And I think I was in intro where I said that a part of my job when I was at Royal, I worked in internal control on the retail side, and I was responsible for the family islands. I used to call on the phone and they say, "Hey Donna, how are you today? Can you tell me what's the process for opening up an account?" And it was just to check to make sure that Donna understood her function. If Donna didn't understand her function, of course, we had to send her the training or send her to a class to make sure she understood her function. So I know, and that was back in 2000, early 2000s. I know now the person who is doing that is much more strategic, has to ask loads more information to find out if these persons understand risk associated with their functions as well. Okay? Ms. Bullock, tired of talking now. Y'all talk back to me. Give me some feedback. That's the first chapter 4. I need to ask some questions and call some names. You're there because you're just very, very quiet.
We talked about that inherent risk, Ms. Bullock.
Yeah, we talked about it. What you want to know about inherent risk?
So I just want to know if it's just like based on us having a bank, this is what we're going to be exposed to. That's basically what they mean when they say that, right?
What you mean?
Like because of the product and services we offer, this is our inherent risk, like what it comes with this type of business, or it isn't that way, or isn't explained that way.
Okay. The level of risk in place in order to achieve an entity's objective and before actions are taken to alter the risk impact or likelihood. Okay. So, like you said, these are the products and services that we are going to offer. What is the probability of us being infiltrated, or like what controls do we need to have in place, or what are the possibilities and inherent to the company, like what could possibly happen? Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so the chances of error in some activities out of a multiple of performed services, or if we do this service, open this account 10 times, what are the possibilities of us making a mistake or there's an error? Okay, so just trying to define possibilities or things could possibly happen, and then putting the controls in place to protect the institution before it happens.
So
Okay,
question, the control library, would that be like the manual? Like a
No.
compliance manual?
So that's the policy and procedure is the compliance manual. Like we looked at the central bank guidelines. And so if you are a bank, let me just pull it up. 1 second. Okay, if you are a bank, is it screen sharing? No? No? Okay, if you are a bank, this is the central bank guidelines. You would copy this table of contents and only include what services and products you offer. So if you don't do corporate clients, you wouldn't include that. If you don't have segregated accounts, or you don't issue power of attorneys, you don't include that. You only include, you know, what products and services you offer. So your policy should mimic or copy this from your regulator. That's what your policy states. Now, let me see if I can find y'all a control library. What I could
You
show
did say
you.
next week, so no pressure.
Okay, yeah. Just so you would get a, you know, a visual of what it looks like. Oh, that's actually procedure. Tell you what I want. Yeah, that's procedure. Yeah, so I'm trying to pull it up. Yeah, Owen, you had a question while I look for this control thing? Owen?
Yes, yeah, I did have a question, and this relates to the methodology. Now, I understand when you was talking about methodology, you put up the PowerPoint presentation and it had the 4 domains. Is those domains just exclusive to the Bahamas, or as a general methodology for all risk assessments?
This ain't a PowerPoint. This offer the Basel AML index online. You could go online and look at this. And so this is how they risk rate countries. And so, you know, no country is going to be want to be high risk. And so therefore, if you don't want to be high risk, then you know, they are telling you these are the categories. So right now, the governor of the central bank already knows this neutral evaluation is 65%, you know, 35, and then taxes. And so he made sure that those are fixed, or we would get hit hard right there because this is 65%. And so you fix everything. And it's the same thing you do in an audit. If you get an audit plan, you fix everything that they're going to check. You don't wait till they check it and then find out that you didn't do what you're supposed to do. Because if you have a bad audit, sometimes persons get let go or reprimanded, right? So that's the methodology there for all countries, how they are going to risk rate you. Okay, so you fix your things before you be assessed. And this, once you become high risk, it's very, very difficult to get off that list. Right?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's for everybody. So it's just
Yeah.
4 domains then for the methodology.
Is it 4 or 5? 5.
5, okay.
Yeah. There are 5 domains. It's domain 1 is the quality of your framework, corruption and bribery, financial transparency, and that is why every time you had the politicians speak, the prime ministers, they talk about accountability and transparency. They always saying it just to say they doing it, you know, public transparency and accountability, and then political and legal risks. Okay, so they are the categories there. Any other questions? Let's see, spreadsheets. No, everybody else was clear. You all there?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, we are.
Yes, we are. Ms. Billard, in reference to the FATF recommendations, I mean, like, how in depth of knowledge do we have to know? Because I mean, this is a lot of information.
No, I mean, again, don't try and remember anything. You have to understand is what is important. So there are 40 recommendations. Where do I find them? I go to the FATF site. When I reach there, what do I look for? A current date, and if it's customer due diligence, then I put that in. If it's risk, then I put that in. Okay, and then the terminology is different sometimes. Like sanctions is economic ancillary measures. You need to know that. Okay, and so that's how you don't try and remember. It's
I just mean, I don't expect you to tell me exactly what's going to be in the exam, but I mean, for the purpose of the exam, like how in depth, it just seemed like I'm just trying to figure out how much information we need to know for the exam for those recommendations.
For risk, there's normally a question on each chapter. Risk is on 4 chapters, right? So more than likely, out of 10 choices, there are going to be 4 questions on risk. When we get, there's going to be a review session, and you prepare. So I encourage everybody, because there are 4 chapters, you need to understand risk. Okay, and this is the new enforcement era of risk, so you need to at least understand the basics to be able to answer 1 question. And like I said, this is just the first chapter, so it will be a little cloudy. By the time we get through the 4 chapters, you'll understand a little more.
It isn't cloudy, it's very clear cut. It's just a lot to retain. It's just going back over it. Yeah, it's not cloudy. I think it's straightforward.
Yeah, but you can do it. So this is what the control library looks like. The audit area, the account opening, the objectives, what type of risk you could be subjected to, inherent risks. Accounts are open without the appropriate approvals. How high, medium, or low. For accounts rejected by compliance, private banking can escalate to the compliance committee for control. The monthly review, they check every account. You see the monthly review here on the filing, they check 25%. The control, the owner is the compliance, the impact is maximum. Okay, so this is how a library looks. And all the functions, all of the products, all of the service, everything that is offered is in this library. Okay, and this is what risk does all day. The reviews update the changes, update the reviews. So I have to check every account that open, but a way of doing this is the risk person sat on the compliance committee. So, she killed 2 birds with 1 stone. Okay, just to give you an example. Okay, is that good?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So it's a bit complex and extensive, but it's understandable. Like I say, this comes with practice. It'll get clearer each time.
Yeah, that's clear, because it's a checklist really of different things that you would check in compliance. So it'll say you have daily, quarterly, monthly. Yeah, so that's clear. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So right now, if you are Swiss, but like I said, if you are Canadian bank, they didn't deal with Russia at all. If you are a Swiss bank, you would have just increased. Russia was already considered somewhat high. The perception was that it was high risk, even though on the Basel Committee it's medium. But you would have increased your controls now. So if you was checking 25% of the Russian accounts, you would check 100% now. You would increase it because of the changes. You should have increased it last month before this war started. And definitely if you have any of those names or entities on your books, you would block them and you would file an SDR. You let them know, and the FIU, every time they want to make a transaction, you would call the FIU and say, hey, we got a invoice to pay a bill, or we got a request to pay salaries. Our correspondent bank has agreed to do the transfer. Are we allowed to send it? And if they say you can't do any transaction, whatever, it's just blocked. It's just blocked. Nothing you could do. So then the bank, the board of directors would need to be making a decision on what are we going to do with We have 20 customers. This is the sum. Are we going to close these accounts? Then you would write the central bank and say, listen, we are Russian portfolio. We want approval to prepare checks and send them because no bank's taking the money, or we're going to let the money sit. You know, once you document the decision and the approvals, then you're fine. Don't worry about it. Okay. Any questions or concerns on this? No, let me see who ain't talked to me today. Let me see. This week, no. Next week is week 5. Let me see if I know everybody. Let me see who I don't know. Let me see. Okay, I don't know who QP is. And it's the host. I don't know who is QP.
Quinette Palmer.
Oh, Quinette, you won't talk to me today. How you doing today?
Hey, a little under the weather.
Oh, okay then. But you clear on everything we discussed.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. All right, I seem to know everybody then. So you're all doing okay. Okay, so remember it's week 5. We have 2 persons getting their 5% for their civic organization. Most persons are keeping abreast of the newspaper, so that's very good. So have a productive week and take care. I'm happy to see that I got in the homework. You all should get your grades by next week, Friday. Other than that, have a great week and stay safe. And remember week 5, you should have already requested the days off, study leave, and the day of the exam, so you're not overwhelmed and rushed, and that you could be organized.
Ms. Boleyn, it is still an option for the first question that we sent it just in for feedback?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Sorry, for clarification, it's only the option for the first. We can't do it for all.
Yeah, you could do it for one. No, she's just saying it's the date for the first question has passed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, but again, if you're doing your classwork, the classwork is past questions, all from past exams. The homework is from past exams. So you may see some of those questions on the exam, because there's a test bank and they just pull out questions. Okay, so like I say, you do your homework and do your classwork, you participate. It's fairly easy to pass this class. It's a lot of work, it's complex, but it's achievable.
Hi, Miss Willard.
Hi.
I thought they asked for student number, or that's not correct?
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
I saw they asked to put your student number on the essay, and I was reading the
You were talking about ICA. The ICA book is only 17 to 19 on referencing. When you get to ICA, they're going to give you a student number, and that's where you have to put it on each essay that you submit. So it's not for this class now.
Oh, okay.
Only read the 2 pages on referencing.
Okay.
Everything else is applicable to ICA.
But these exams are marked locally, right?
Yes. ICA is marked in London. So all of these are to prepare you because they are very, very meticulous. And so all of this is just for practice to go on to ICA. Okay? Any other questions or concerns, or I'll be good? Good?
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Good, Miss Willard.
Sorry, you good?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. So you'll have a fabulous weekend. And
You
we'll
too.
do this again.
Thank you, you too.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay. Huh? That's all.